Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intune.Training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Teams. That was so good. And there we have it. The Stephen Adams Show. I'm not hitting stop. We're going. We're steamrolling through. The place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune. The Stephen Adams Show with Ben. Hey guys, what's going on?
Oh, just living the dream, dude. Having a chuckle.
Yeah. Wow, Ben, the video quality you've got going on there is fantastic this week. Have you gotten some new equipment during this lockdown? You just going spend crazy on Amazon or what?
So no, I haven't gone spend crazy. I've got bored and decided to see what I could do now that we apparently don't have webcams available in Australia. So I went ahead and did this. Let me see if I can change this and it works. Okay. I have my phone elastic to a lamp with, you might not be able to see this, a pencil.
A little bit, Phil. Yeah, there we go.
Holding it in the perfect location. Now this is how it's done at home. When you're a consummate professional.
Right.
So let me switch from my Microsoft Live Cam that I think I've had for about a decade to my Droid Cam Source 3.
Wow, that was a dramatic change.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah, I like it. Well done. This is
cool.
good.
You too can be a YouTube star.
I like it. Speaking of YouTube stars, today's episode is sponsored by Coding with Caroline. You should check out codingwithcaroline.com. It's my daughter's channel. She's 8. She's doing some cool stuff. Yeah, check it out. She'd love it. She got 53 subscribers, and she asks me every day, Dad, do I have any more subscribers? She loves it. So,
I think she might. Well, one would hope that she'll get more subscribers out of this.
But really, show your kids, because she's excited about teaching kids on how to code and things like that. So give it a shot. Plus, she likes rainbows and unicorns and things. So, hey.
Nice.
Steve, how's things usual, man?
I don't have anything special behind me or anything like that. So
Nothing.
No. I got a new camera, but let's...
Is that the burned out Apollo capsule?
Yes. No, it's not the Apollo one. This is... I think it's like 12 or 13 down at Cape Canaveral.
Cool. Okay. Well, there you go.
Pretty cool.
If you don't know this, Steve is quite the space history NASA buff. He came and visited, and we went to NASA down in Houston, and he knew everything about NASA. It was quite nerdy of him, really.
I am very nerdy, and I am willing to admit that.
You're in the right industry then.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's get on into it. We want to burn up everybody's precious time, as everybody only watches a couple minutes of these things, so they're going to skip through this anyway. So today we've got some. So I think last week or whatever, in one of our previous videos, we talked about the new URL for Intune, which is the endpoint.microsoft.com. So we're going to start there, and there's a blade over on the left-hand side called Endpoint Security. And so today we're just going to, there's some new things that have shown up there that we are just going to kind of take a first look at, literally, together, as we're just going to kind of look through it and talk about it and give our first impressions and poke around a bit. So take it away, Steve.
Will do. So this is obviously, as Adam said, the endpoint security blade. What we have in here is there's a simple overview, which is going to explain how to turn on a Defender ATP, which we have already done if we've got our E5 subscription associated, because it's going to give us all of that rich verbose information. But then we can also go and look at our devices, which is pretty self-explanatory. And as you can see, we're very compliant in the Intune.Training tenant.
So Steve, is this the exact same, like if I was to go into the classic portal and just go into devices, this is the same, so it's devices, all devices, right?
It looks to be the same.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I haven't dug into if there's any additional features there.
Sure.
There is the bulk actions there.
Yeah, nice.
But what you'll see is there's no checkbox in front of it, which is in the other one, I believe.
Okay.
No, it's not there. No.
Oh, they've
just
removed that, have they?
just compared.
Okay, so it's the same.
It seemed to be similar. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. You have it here first. So then there's the baseline, security baselines. These are the features that you can go and publish and deploy. This is the same as what you have in the traditional Azure portal. And then we're stepping into the new stuff, which is security tasks. So if you go and create alerts and tasks inside Security Center, so the Defender ATP portal, you can start seeing the information popping up in here saying, well, you need to go and do stuff.
That's cool.
And this is where you're assigning it to people or assigning it to teams to say, go and fix stuff. So we don't have anything in our tenant, otherwise we would have done a demo. Yeah. But this is where, say, for example, there's an out-of-date version of Adobe. You can go and assign a task to an engineer or a team to go and fix that.
Nice.
Which I think is fantastic.
Do they see if a security task is generated here?
Yep.
Does the account it's assigned to, do they get email notifications?
I believe so. I've not looked into it.
Okay, cool. Because that would be quite handy.
Yep, definitely.
I'll definitely be playing with that.
Yeah. So and as Adam put it, this is our first look through it. So we haven't had a full deep dive into this. We haven't deployed it in anger yet. We've just seen this appear in the portal and went, oh, actually that looks pretty cool, and let's talk about it.
That might be a good video to do, just to sort of show everyone how you can generate tasks, and
definitely
especially the notifications, to sort of put that into your workflow, and then you've essentially got issue-based ticket generation technically automatically, which is amazing.
And that's exactly
Steve, didn't we do was it in our AppLocker video that we did that we walked through Security Center?
Yes, it was in our AppLocker video, but it wasn't in this tenant.
22.
It was in a different tenant. Yep.
Okay. But so I just wanted to point out, so in episode 22, we went into the Security Center and demoed how to do all that stuff. So if you want to see in Security Center and probably even find those security tasks and things, go watch episode 22. It should get you there. Sorry, I had something else with that, but whatever. I move on. I can't remember.
It's all good. Cool. So security tasks, very, very useful to use. The interesting part I find here is that there is a drop down for source ATP and source unknown. To me, that means that there's going to be additional components appearing in there.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. It's just something new.
Sorry. What I was going to say. The big deal about ATP, the Security Center, what is Microsoft Defender Security Center, is E5. You have to have an E5 license to enable it for your tenant, which is why we don't have it on our tenant, because you have to. It's the E5 Windows license.
I thought you guys got E5 ages ago.
Yeah, we've been sponsored E5, but we just haven't gone through and updated our videos and content around it.
Cool.
Yeah, but in order to enable that, you need to have E5.
And it's very important to mention it's Windows 10 E5 or M365 E5. It's not EM+S. It's not O365. It needs to be the Windows 10 SKU needs to be E5, which is bundled into that Microsoft 365 E5 bundle.
Yeah.
Yes, licensing. It's one of these necessary evils. It's important to know. And everybody hates it.
Just make sure that you get the Microsoft or the M365 and not the M365 E5, right? just to confuse people. Licensing is fun.
Yeah, it is. So one of the new features you'll see here is under Manage, they now have some preview tabs. And we've got the AV products where you can actually select both Mac OS and Win 10. And then define the configuration for both Defender AV, which previously existed in the existing Intune policies, but what we're seeing is they've extracted that out into its own policy or part of a policy. We haven't gone into the schema and everything associated, so this is just what we're seeing here. And if we go and put stuff here, so it's a win 10. Whoa.
Underscores, not dashes. Come on, Steve. We trained Ben on that last week, and you already forgot.
Oh yeah.
Come on, Steve. Consistently inconsistent. That's
exactly
what we like.
So now we have the ability to do our cloud protection. So all of this is in the endpoint protection policy in the previous policy when you go into device configuration, but it's now extracted out into its own policy because it is such an important thing. So you want to make sure that you're always turning on the turn on cloud delivery protection. Look, not configured is still at a reasonably good standard. Once you get to zero tolerance, you're going to be stopping things running in your environment. Anywhere in between is happy. So long as it's turned on, happy days. But your mileage may vary depending on your configuration. So this is where it's sending stuff up and detonating it and testing it and things like that. We then step into the Defender AV exclusions, where you can go and exclude processes or files, folders, and extensions, which is important. So you can, for example, exclude the config manager case directory, so you don't sit there and constantly scan on every computer that AV, because why do we need to? And then you got real-time protection. It's all the standard stuff that you would see here. We're always going to turn on that real-time protection or make sure that it's turned on, and step it all the way through.
Nice. And again, just to sort of harp on this is not new settings. These existed before. They're just an abstracted version of the endpoint protection policies that we previously have and still do have.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
that's exactly.
So just as a contrast, just you know, for the viewers at home, where is the comparable current settings? Where would we go and find those currently?
So if we go, let me bring up the Intunes.
Yeah. So while you're doing this, I want to do a test, because I'm curious as someone who works with this stuff programmatically. I'd like to see where it currently is, and then I'd like to create a policy and then look at the classic portal and see if it appears in this location as well.
All right. So we're going to go to the Silverlight portal, are we?
No.
Silverlight portal's the classic portal?
Classic.
The Azure portal, not endpoint.
Yeah, sure.
Not DMAC.
It's Coke original.
Where is it? Under...
This is the breadcrumbs to Intune portal.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
I believe it's endpoint protection.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
To see, there's also in there. There's also a Microsoft Defender ATP policy or profile as well.
Yes,
so
but that only turns on
two things. Yeah, file sharing and something else. So
yeah.
No, it's not.
Inside the endpoint protection policy, there are all the things related to BitLocker and encryption, all of those things.
Yeah, but not AV. Which one is it under? I always keep forgetting this one, evidently. Yeah. Device restrictions, maybe?
Strongly doubt that, but have a look.
Did the Windows Defender Security Center?
No, or maybe.
It's got virus and threat protection.
Let's just grab one of the existing
ones.
That's
just configuring this. See, this is why we struggle. This is why other people struggle with this.
Yeah, virus and threat protection, account protection.
Yeah. And that's it. That is exactly it. So it's a matter of stepping through and understanding where it's at.
Yeah.
So that's only hiding it in the UI.
Yeah, that's not it.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
I
Okay,
have
well,
seen it elsewhere.
yeah. Anyway,
move on.
let's go back to the original one, create the policy, and then go back and see where it lives. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. All right. So that's there. And obviously we can set our scope tags if we need to. We're going to assign it to a group, which is going to be Surface Pro 6, just because I feel like it. And we go next.
Adam Mike's underscores. Very good. All right, so we have our
think he saw the
Win10
joke.
Defender. Yeah, we have our Win10 Defender AV policy. So can we go to the original portal and have a look?
Yep. So we go here, and it does.
No, they've added a
new class, is it?
go under Microsoft Intune device security.
Microsoft Intune. Nope.
So, okay, so what this is saying to me, and this isn't a pass or fail test. I'm curious to see whether these new configuration policies exist in their own endpoint, because if they do, what that potentially says to me is that all the energy is being pushed towards this new endpoint, and the Graph API calls now will be changing.
Some, I think.
Yes, but this is something that needs to be said and needs to be sort of made abundantly clear. All this new stuff will have different forming when you generate your remote calls.
Yep. And this is where we'll just need to go through and work that out, and it will probably end up being a future video.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the AV. There's the disk encryption, which has been simplified, which is awesome.
I really like this one. Disk encryption is one of those things where even if a client doesn't have disk encryption, they really want it, and it's such a common thing that everyone wants, and it is fairly simple. But for the life of me, every single time I have to do it, if I have to do it from scratch, I always forget the correct processes, which is why I've templated most of this stuff. But yeah, it's cool that they made it simpler.
And literally, that is the default 5 settings that you need to be worried about, right? Yeah. You can then go a little bit more aggressive on the fixed drive settings and start putting some more rules around that. You can start putting some additional rules around the OS and removable. But the fact that you have the ability just to keep it that simple, and if you need to go in here and go, oh, I need it to be
256 or whatever.
Look, how much easier is that to read compared to the old portal? Yeah. So highly recommend having a look at this and playing around with that and making sure that works for you.
I think this alone, Steve, is going to make me start using the endpoint portal more.
I think so too.
I think it might just be my new standard.
Yep.
Especially if this information is now no longer available to us in the original Azure portal. Yeah. That's definitely gonna change my workflow, and for the better, I think.
I think so too. So then we've got the firewall rules, and the one thing to note here is on the last 3 of these, there's been Win10 and Mac OS, which I think is pretty awesome. So I can now go in here and do Mac OS, because it's lowercase m, not capitalized M. And you can just turn that on and start putting all of those rules in there.
Yeah, cool.
And adding in policies to say allow in from this or block from this.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's not just for Windows 10, which is awesome. And then you got.
But I do like that they've a lot of people that I've spoken to have always said that that one of the biggest problems with configuring config policies and endpoint protection policies is that there's so much in each sort of realm or each scope that it's difficult to remember what has been configured or remember where a specific policy exists. So I really like this idea of extracting out the standard things or the most common things that people need, so that you don't need to worry about all of the other complex things that most people won't configure.
Well, and also so you don't have to try and figure out from trial and error.
Yes. Yeah. No.
If I
think
have
that's-
2 endpoint protection policies assigned, are they going to conflict or are they going to work together?
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Yep.
things like that. Because obviously there's going to be situations where you want Hello for Business turned on differently for certain users or attack service reduction. And
Yeah, and I mean another thing as well. I've found personally that we started from creating single policies with lots of settings to then breaking those down into smaller policies because one scenario is if you make if you have a large group of settings in a single policy that you're pushing out and you decide at some point that you need to make a unique one but only for one of those settings, there are some settings that you can configure that can't be undone. They don't immediately go back to not configured. So you just can't do it. And what that means is that you invariably will have to completely destroy that entire policy, break it out into its smaller parts.
Yep.
And that's a lost day of productivity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's
from
all
experience.
Yeah. I think we're both speaking from experience on that
Yes.
one. And this surface reduction, and look, this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent in the organizations where you're sitting there and going, we have to do application whitelisting for better or worse.
Mhm.
So in Australia, we have what's called the Essential 8 for the government entities, which is where the big one, or big two, is you need to have drive encryption turned on, so BitLocker, and you need to have application whitelisting. And it's a big thing for every government entity has to whitelist every application on their device. So it's something that's going to be something that's important. And I know in America they have certain scenarios where they need to meet explicit
Or exceed?
encryption levels. No. In the US, they aren't allowed to exceed
Right. Okay.
certain encryption levels. So it was defined on this at this point to be this level, and then they're not allowed to actually go beyond that.
Yeah. Right.
There's some interesting things because they were written into laws and legislation. So
Yeah. Cool.
Yay, politics. Way to bring that into this channel. Good job.
sorry guys, I'm not talking politics, and it's just observational. But that's the important stuff here, right? And you can start breaking out all of those app policies and configurations. You also have the account protection, which is think Hello for Business, think
So this is identity protection, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's identity protection, but slightly different.
Okay.
And the important thing to remember is, look, we're sitting here. We haven't ran this in production. We haven't tested this. So make sure you go and test this in your environment and see how it works.
So don't roll this out into production yet.
No, most of Intune's sitting in the preview realm.
I'm just saying it could change at any moment.
Yeah, it's not preview. It's bleeding edge.
Technically, I don't know if it has the terminology there, but technically, Autopilot still fell into the.
Really?
Yeah.
I know enrollment status page was preview for a very long time, and probably
Still
if it's not, I was about to say if it's not, it should be.
Yeah. So Autopilot, and I don't actually remember where it is in here.
Go to devices, enrollment.
Yeah.
Windows.
Device.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so they don't say preview here, but that's still preview. And I'm pretty sure Autopilot's still preview as well.
Go to devices right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't say it, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, so
changing regularly.
It is rapidly changing. It's one of these technologies that, look, even 8 months ago when we started these videos, it's a completely different landscape than what it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, we've had what, at least two different new portals to use.
It's crazy.
Well, no, DMAC is the same as endpoint management. It was just a rebrand.
We
Yeah,
gotta
but
love
I don't even
rebrands.
know. Did DMAC exist when we started?
No,
No.
it did not.
Yeah.
It
So
was Portal, and then it was DMAC, and now it is
Yep.
endpoint protection or endpoint.microsoft. Which, look, endpoint works. It makes sense to me.
Yep.
And you know,
it's
my
shorter.
initial misgivings with it was that you know, to get to certain things, I had to click on different locations, and logically in my head, you know, I'd spent so long, you know, sort of understanding where I needed to get to so that I could do it with my eyes closed. That you know, that annoyed me. But if they're now going to start, if we're now going to start seeing invested effort in new and easier abstractions of those policies, I'm all for it. What that does mean for anyone playing at home that does the stuff that I do, which is you know, pulling out these policies automatically and doing sort of programmatic approach, it does mean that we're going to need to spend a little bit of time understanding how the APIs and the endpoints work. And I will, now that I've seen this, I'm definitely going to be spending some time on sort of documenting that process and, you know, helping people out.
Definitely. And probably the last thing to call out here is the setup, Microsoft Defender ATP. Previously, there was only 2 sliders here. There's now the third one for automatically connecting Android devices and above 6.0 and above to Defender ATP.
That's funny. That's the first thing about Android I've seen recently. Everything's, oh yeah, we've got Mac OS baked in and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, interesting.
We should probably turn on some of our devices in our tenant soon.
Yeah. I've been thinking that we need to do that and get some metrics in there to make it so.
Yeah, we could enroll my webcam.
Only if I can sit there and format it on live on air.
Yeah, let's say we did but didn't.
Awesome. But otherwise, yeah, that I think is a good overview of all the new features that they've added into endpoint management. Is there any closing points that you guys want to
add? Well done, Steve. Good job.
Well done, Steve. Yeah, look, I think, yeah, closing is obviously this is just another reminder that the you know, the stuff that we're working on is very, despite the fact that we've been doing this for years, is very new. And it is rapidly changing. And when you see things that say preview on them, get excited, because, you know, it means that we're getting better functionality. And that's the key thing here. They're not just new for the sake of being new. They're new because they're a better way to do things, or in theory. If they ever drop off, then they were obviously a failed test. But let's just say that right now, if you see something in preview, make sure, if you don't already have an environment to test these things out, set one up, start playing with them, because, you know, this is the future of how we're going to be maintaining and managing our devices. So the quicker you can get on and sort of understand it, the better.
So another couple of points there on that is, so in order to stay current with all of this, we, Steve, I'm pasting in the chat there the link to the Intune What's New, and I think we've brought this up previously, but so there's an RSS feed that you can subscribe to, or at least bookmark this page, or remember to Google Bing it, What's New in Intune. And you will get a weekly What's New, where it will break down all the new stuff that they've added. So instead of every week or whatever getting in here and clicking through all of the bits and pieces, go read through what's new, read through the stuff that's relevant to you, the things that you need to look at, whatever, so that you can stay current with what's changing. And then the other point, to Ben's point, is make sure that you are using endpoint.microsoft.com now as your home base, instead of using the Azure portal at azure.com and then clicking through to Intune. It will still work, and you can still go there and manage your things. But as we kind of demonstrated, some of these new settings, at least on our initial take here, now maybe we missed it, they certainly do not appear to be showing up in both places. And so you'll want to, especially if you've got a staff that's doing shared management, you want to make sure that you guys are all playing out of the same sandbox here because you know you don't want to get people configuring things in multiple places. If you're going to switch over and use the new security policies, make sure that you're I mean, I would anyway, turning off any of the other configuration profiles.
And that's a big thing to say there. So obviously, you know, the key thing here is that you don't want conflicting policies, but also if you don't have the time, try and make some time to understand these new policies and then work out a game plan to migrate your existing policies to endpoint.microsoft.com, because if that is going to be the future, we need to make sure that everything is in that new portal. Otherwise, you are going to have problems where people think that you don't have a policy applying, or people don't know where the rule is coming from.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you know, as a consumer of the portal and things, I mean, I'm looking at it saying, it sure would be nice if there were more visual indicators of this has replaced that, or, you know, don't use this anymore, whatever. Like being able to see the conflict, see the overlap, see this feature replaces that feature, this is where these settings are, kind of things. Just like we were looking for the antivirus policies. I mean, we swear we've seen these in here before, but maybe they're not in there.
Maybe we haven't.
Maybe we've seen them elsewhere and they've never been in here. I don't know, because they don't seem to be.
Yeah.
So
maybe they were ADMX policies. Who knows? You know, like at the end of the day, the design and the layout of the policy abstractions that we've seen, and I say abstractions because these policies and these settings have always existed. It's just the concept of abstracting them away and making them simpler for us to use. You know, that's the key thing here. This stuff is designed to be easier for us to use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because look, sitting underneath all of this is the CSPs.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm trying to find the setting for, and it didn't come up easily.
This is the CSP for the antivirus stuff.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're saying there.
But I mean, the document was just updated, so I mean, we could probably maybe go look at the revision history and see if this is a new doc or if something changed. The other searches I was looking for brought up the archive pages that had really, really old screenshots of Intune Classic, all that sort of stuff. So we'll have to figure it out.
Cool.
Yes. Awesome. So I think that pretty much wraps us up. Where do we find you on the socials there, Ben?
I'm on Twitter at powers_hell. That is my primary place of distraction. I also have a website, it's just powers-hell.com, where I just talk about PowerShell and automation and fun stuff like that.
I swear he pauses every time he tries to remember his.
Because I need to remember whether it's underscore or dash. And look, if I had my choice, it would have all been dash, but it wasn't available. So it's fine.
Not possible, I believe.
And then your GitHub tabs, not spaces, because why be consistent, really?
Consistency is overrated. I leave that to my code. Hey.
Nice.
And Mr. Adam, where do we find you?
At AdamGrossTX on the Twitter, and asquaredozen.com is my blog, which I probably should write some things for soon.
And Sysman Squad and
sysmansquad.com and codingwithcaroline.com and intune.training and
Adam just spends far too much time on the internet.
Yes.
Jeez.
What about you, Steve?
Good amount of time in the garage doing woodworking this last couple of weeks.
You have. I've seen the pictures of the chairs. It's pretty impressive. And you can find me on the Twitters at on-prem cloud guy. And I occasionally, and I think it's been a long while since I've actually put any blogs up, but it's stephen.hosking.com.au.
I have a T-shirt that can prove that you haven't updated your blog in a while.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's been a great video, guys. Thanks for hanging out and talking through it with us.
Anytime.
Yeah. Hopefully you found it helpful. See you around, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta pee.